Assuming we're talking about the IRGC arming their civilians on their side of this because they don't feel that they have the necessary forces, I would like to bring up that some of these weapons might have come from a ship that was stolen by the IRGC recently, a Chinese ship full of weapons, which is incredibly difficult to steal. A ship full of a weapons ship. It's just an armory, a floating armory. They stole it allegedly. Somehow they knew exactly where it was. They went to get it with their little boats and picked it up. They got on a boat full of weapons. No one died. They just took the boat and took it back. And then they're suddenly on TV showing these relatively, they look pretty new weapons. I think that might play into what they're arming the weapons that are being given to the IRGC, and I think their older stock might be going to civilians.
But so okay, but Sketch, so far the weapons that we're seeing that the Islamic regime is giving to the civilian. So for by the way, for people who don't know what the context is, ever since yesterday, the regime is doing something new, and they're doing it ever since 2 days ago. They're going on state TV and they're showing the pro-regime Iranians how to use guns and RPGs and machine guns and also sniper guns. Is that what they're called? So is and they're training on TV. They're telling people where to go get them. They're trying to arm the pro-regime Iranians against the anti-regime Iranians, so that when an uprising happens, the pro-regime Iranians could shoot into the crowds of anti-regime Iranians. So that seems to be the plan, or it could be just be a scare tactic for the anti-regime Iranians not to come out in the streets. That could also be the case. But not only that, we see them now going into mosques and training people on how to use these guns. And we saw a video yesterday. Ali found a video yesterday that showed me that their children with RPGs. They're training children with RPGs, and all of the guns that they're demos showing are not the type of guns that is useful against the Israelis or Americans. Like, it's not going to stop their drones, it's not going to stop their planes. It's
You're
only for their whole point is for to shoot at the civilian population. But to your point, Sketch, the guns that I'm seeing that they're using and giving out in the mosque and also in the street protests that they have, I saw they were training women to with these guns. It's just Kalashnikovs and RPGs and same old weapons that they always had. I don't see them using anything that like is that they didn't have before, and we haven't seen it in numbers that might suggest that they came from somewhere else. They always
okay.
had these. Yeah.
Can I repeat myself? Like I said before, these new weapons would go to the soldiers that are trained and they would give their old weapons to civilians. So the
Mm.
old weapons that you're always seeing in the hands of soldiers would be going to the hands of civilian, and their newer high tech, maybe some night vision, the stuff you would have on a war barge or on an armory barge, that
Gotcha.
you would give to your more experienced soldiers. I have a
Okay.
video from Max Afterburner. He goes into how the op happened. I'm putting it into the chat. Great guy. I one of these days in the morning. I know you love raging about Piers Morgan. That's good. Maybe 5 days a week. One day a week. Try Max Afterburner. Great guy. Really backs Iran. Is very knowledgeable on this kind of thing. So you might want to check him out. He goes in detail into what was on that barge and why it's very fishy how this came to be in the hands of the Iranians. And as I said, if you have a new guns, you're not just gonna store your old guns. If you're that scared of the population, you might give your old guns to the people that you think will support you and would want to do it because they know what the population will do to them if everything switches.
Yeah, it might be true, but we don't know yet because we haven't seen the level of arming the Iranian people yet. Okay. This might be a scare tactic and there might be no arming on a mass scale. It might just be a way to just make the pro anti-regime Iranians panic. What do you think about that?
I think I was just trying to lend credence or the topic to the person that wasn't able to be here. We're not sure of
Yeah.
anything. It's war. I
Yep.
mean, we have the
Okay. Yeah.
fog of war. But just to touch on the topic, give the both sides of it. You gave one side, I gave the other, and that's just how I wanted to try to help
Yep.
cover it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I see some other people have an opinion about this, and then we also have a super chat that has a topic, uh, attached to it, so we could respond to that together. But yeah, so who wants to respond?
Yep, to respond, we have Ardalan.
I think we also had, okay.
Yeah, so I believe the arming of the civilians, even they who support the regime, is not very likely, because the regime has behaved in an opposite direction. Like they have invited basically the terrorist militant group from other countries, that like Hashishabi or other militants from Afghanistan. And I believe that indicates that the regime does not trust the civilians, even the supporters, even the some members of the lower ranks of IRGC. I believe that's why they are resorting to these terrorist militant groups from other countries. Like they're showing more trust towards these militant groups than their own troops to suppress uprising of the people as a result of the regime losing its iron fist.
Okay, now that you say that, it makes me consider something interesting. Remember that the IRGC is fragmented. It's possible that there are parts of IRGC that are thinking like, what the fuck, who's doing this? Like, why, who's arming like the civilian population? This is a really fucking bad idea. And then there's another part of IRGC who's like, yeah, let's do this. This is a genius idea. So there might be some parts of the IRGC that feel like they're left out, and that there are other parts of IRGC that might want to be more flexible to the Americans. And then in response to other IRGCs who want to be less flexible, like, oh, really? Let's go, who's on our side? The pro-regime Iranians on our side. Let's go arm them, and let's see what you have to say once they have, because there are some pro-regime Iranians who are concerned that the IRGC at some point is just going to overpower them and do whatever they want without listening to what their demands are, right? So if I was part of an IRGC that thinks that the demands of the people, like the pro-regime people, shouldn't be ignored, I would like, how we could make sure that they will never get ignored? Just arm them. So this might be an internal disagreement. So if you say like, oh, they don't trust these people, they wouldn't want to get them armed, maybe you're right, but also maybe this is the opinions of some of them, but not all of them.
Okay, that also makes sense. But just the fact that they imported these terrorist militias from other countries just makes me think, why would they do such a thing?
That's actually a very good point, and it's relevant, okay? Because here's what we noticed some pro-regime Iranians being concerned about, okay? And we predicted this before it happened. Some pro-regime Iranians were concerned that the militia that they're bringing in from outside of Iran to inside of Iran might be there not just to suppress the anti-regime Iranians, but also the pro-regime Iranians who have demands for IRGC and the regime, right? And maybe they're bringing them in because at some point the IRGC needs to make decisions that is not going to be popular among pro-regime Iranians. So maybe the militia is to shut them up as well. So to make sure that if anybody within the IRGC or the more jihadi minded Iranians have a problem with it, that's what they have to face. So maybe in response, they're arming the pro-regime Iranians as a countermeasure to that as well. So that's another thing that we have to consider.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, last to respond is D-Dome.
I think if you remember a couple of weeks ago, if I remember right, Netanyahu said to wait for some big surprise. So I think this is a part of the surprise. Because I don't have a good explanation why the regime would arm somebody who is not directly the IRGC. This is a big, massive defection. Like I can't if I try to think like the regime might have thought, I can't like give a good answer. Why would the regime who is desperate on staying power will arm the simple citizens? Because they can't really check who from the Iranians are Dorka and who is not.
Can't-
Yeah,
They can't go to the first of all, two things. Actually, finish your point and then I'll respond.
yeah, I just wanted to say that every Iranian almost learned at school the Dorka stuff. So, as you mentioned before, it is time to remember this.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that was kind of like doing a bit like that was kind of a joke. But let me tell you, if I was the regime, parts of the regime, how I would vet it, it was not like I wouldn't be like, okay, do some hey that, and I'll give you a gun. It would based on I would go to the mosque and we will only arm the people who are regular there, people that other people know. Like everybody knows somebody, people who have been part of this community for a while, they come to, like, people know each other. It would be a referral system. It would be, you know, the imam of the mosque knows the people that are regular at the mosque, so that's how you could do it. I mean, it's easy. You could go, people could vouch for each other, right? So that could be the process, right? There are ways to do it. That's one. Two, also keep in mind that every time we say like, oh, I don't see why would the Islamic Republic do this and that, you have to remember that it only takes some people within the Islamic Republic to think this is a good idea. Right? Remember, the Islamic Republic is fragmented and they don't have control over each other. So even if many of them think it's a bad idea, if some of them think this is a good idea, it might happen. Right? So don't judge it based on what the Islamic Republic thinks, because they disagree. And many, I mean, if you think this is a bad idea and IRGC would never do that, IRGC might listen to you, but like, yes, why would would they listen to Daniel? What the fuck? Who's doing this? What the fuck is happening? Stop these motherfuckers, like that. So that might be, just keep that in mind as well. The fragmented nature of the IRGC, right? Okay.
All right.